I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com with a guest that was quite a surprise last time he was on. Got over 100,000 views. Smart guy. He has a deep Wall Street experience as an analyst in commodities and other disciplines. 10 years experience. He has a very popular website, libertyblitzkrieg.com. I'm talking about Michael Krieger. Michael Krieger, there you are. Thank you for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
Greg, thank you for having me on. Absolute pleasure to be on your show again. I'm really looking forward to our talk.
You write a lot of stuff, a lot of different stuff, and you know what I haven't really covered very well on this? I've just called it a secret trade deal, and I've talked about how you have to go into a room to see it, the Congress people, and all the information is classified, such a great deal. You know, the president is over in Vietnam telling them that's going to create jobs for you, but he doesn't say that over here. How bad is the Trans-Pacific Partnership? And now we're hearing stories about the president. He's going to try to ram this through in the lame duck session. What's going on with that?
Yeah, so Greg, I'm glad you brought that up because it's something that's sort of gotten pushed off to the side now that we have the whole spectacle of the 2016 presidential election going on. But I actually think, and I wrote about this the other day, that stopping the TPP is in the near term probably the most important thing that we could do as American citizens at this point. And the reason is because, as you just said, Obama's not even being coy about it. He's out there saying, I'm going to try to push this after the election in the lame duck session, when he knows that certain Congress people won't care what they vote. They can do all sorts of treasonous things that could be easily bribed. They know that they'll probably get offers of $1 million a year if they get kicked out, or if they already get kicked out if they vote for the TPP. So this is an enormous betrayal by Obama. It'll be his final betrayal, but he's going to try to do it. And so BuzzFeed recently put out a series on this deal, which is one of the best I've read so far. Part one I covered last week, and it focuses in on something called the ISDS, Investor State Dispute Settlement System. And basically, this is the most heinous part of the TPP. This is the thing that's just inexplicably bad. And what it allows essentially is allows companies to sue governments and then have the decision play out in these arbitration courts where these judges, could have served as corporate judges. It's very shady. And essentially what it allows is three things for in my opinion, for like the oligarch class. One, it allows them to continue with this sort of risk-free sort of looting of the world. So now there's no sovereign risk anymore. I mean, if you're someone that's been on Wall Street, you know that when you buy a sovereign bond or you invest in a country that has a history of, let's say, revolutions and things like that, you have that risk. It's called sovereign risk. What this is trying to do is eliminate that. So if a country decides, well, we need to put pollution laws in, a company can then say, well, you're hurting my profit margins, and sue the country. And so by doing this, what these big investors are going to be doing, and they've done it in the past, because this system exists already, but the TPP is going to expand it greatly. That's a big purpose of the TPP. So it basically allows all these corporate raiders to go ahead and just abuse countries with basically the countries can't do anything about it. And this has played out over time. The other thing is now what you're seeing is these financial guys like hedge funds and even like private equity people, they're looking around the world now. They're looking for potential issues where countries have passed a law and then they can go ahead and buy a company or represent a company and sue the country. So it was originally intended to be this sort of fair system where investors had a right to go against whatever a country might have done, expropriate assets. But now it's become this entire fraud thing where it's just a way to further loot and pillage the globe. So and the final thing is certain criminals, global criminals, are actually getting off the hook. They've been convicted of crimes in these countries, and then they sue in these ISDS courts, and they get off. So it's basically what it's doing is, as you've seen in the United States, where there is no rule of law, where corporate criminals, where people that are connected can do whatever they want, this just expands that on a global basis. And that's a big reason why I think Obama is pushing so hard for the TPP. It's just going to further erode the rule of law and entrench the current corrupt oligarchy.
Well, Paul Ryan, had an upstart, a real challenger. Now, he ended up winning fairly handily, but not until he said to his voters, Paul Ryan, Speaker of the House, not until he said, no, I'm not going to do the TPP. I won't do the TPP. Now, unless he's going to get elected and then he's just going to lie straight on out to all the people in his district, I'm hoping that he's going to be a man of his word and say he's not going to push, because without him, you go get the TPP through, it's got to start in the House. So without him, it doesn't work. I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think he'll just come right out and lie?
I wouldn't be surprised at all. I mean, you're already seeing. I was reading an article this morning from The Hill talking about how a group of House representatives, part of the Freedom Caucus, are already talking about potentially voting against Ryan the next time he comes up for the vote in the House. So he's already angering a lot of people. So with the TPP, I mean, this is what people need to understand. This is so important to Obama. Why is it so important to him, right? It's because this is another huge corporate coup. This is almost like the bailouts of 2008, 2009. This is so important to his donors. This is so important to the so-called elite oligarch class that they're going to do everything imaginable to try to get this thing through. Remember with Obamacare, every dirty trick, every under the bribe, everything. So who knows what Ryan could be offering? He could be, I mean, if he votes TPP and then gets kicked out of the House in a few years, I mean, the guy's going to probably get $5 million a job, $5 million a year cushy job for the rest of his life for ensuring that this thing went through. So I don't trust any politician when it comes to something that is so important to these oligarchs. It almost always goes through.
You called it treason. You called it treason, and I think that's exactly what it is. But go ahead. Finish your thought. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say it's whatever you want to call it. Look, it's an incredible betrayal, and if you want to say treason, I mean, the idea behind treason would be you're giving up sovereignty. I mean, the TPP is relinquishing sovereignty to corporations in these global arbitration courts. So, I mean, if you don't think that's treason, okay, but I mean, you are explicitly eroding the sovereignty of the United States of America as well as many other countries around the world.
Oh, what's up with Hillary Clinton? I mean, she has these coughing spells, and I don't, if you cough a little bit, you can, string together a bunch of coughs from different speeches. But boy, the other day, last week or so, she just went crazy. She had to stop her speech. NBC ran it. She got onto NBC. She had the presidential forum. She was scolding Matt Lauer, somebody who's a donor, and somebody who's throwing puffball questions to her. What do you think of Hillary Clinton? She just seems to be, I don't know, creepy.
I mean, Hillary Clinton is the biggest. I write about it all the time, and I'm no Trump fan. I want to make that clear. But Hillary Clinton is one of the biggest disasters. I mean, it's such a train wreck. It's just unbelievable to watch. And as far as the coughing, I mean, I've been very clear about this. It is completely legitimate to ask questions about Hillary Clinton's health. She's almost 70 years old. She has a very long medical history, particularly recently. She's on medication. She won't release her medical records. Now, Trump hasn't either, and he should as well. But this idea that the media is saying that any questions about her health is conspiracy theory is absurd. I mean, so many MDs, I've covered it on my site. Obama's former physician said that she should release her medical records. Countless MDs. I have friends who are doctors that are saying this looks strange. She might not. Look, let's hope she's not sick, because I don't want someone that's extraordinarily sick to be president. She very well might be. But there are reasons to ask questions. And so you should be asking questions. And I'm certainly asking questions. But beyond that, I mean, that's just one concern. I mean, this person is completely bought by the establishment. I mean, if you look, I wrote in this recent piece, she just did this press conference today, if you want to call it that. Did you watch it with the engines, the jet engines roaring in the background? You could barely. She
handpicked. I mean, handpicked a bunch of reporters that are on her plane. Anybody they asked a hard question, poof, they're off. That's not a press conference. Oh, press conference, people can show up. I know what a press conference is, but it's the press. And anybody can show up and they can ask whatever questions they want. Right? That's not a press conference. Go ahead.
I wrote about this article. It was a great article in Politico the other day, discussing what it's like as a reporter to follow the Hillary campaign, and basically saying, like, all you do is you go from one Hamptons house one Hamptons mansion to the next, and the reporters get like thrown in the basement. And there was this one caretaker at one of these Hamptons houses that was like, "Oh, when are you guys going to go in and hear what she has to say?" And they were like, "No, we're not allowed." And the caretaker was like, "What?" He couldn't believe it. And so, yeah, I mean, the reporters are just, I mean, they're like little puppy dogs running around Hillary, like sniffing her butt, and then they get thrown into the basement, and she just talks in private to billionaires. I mean, it's incredible. And all the while, she's not doing any campaign speeches. She wouldn't talk to the press for almost a year. It's just in your face, It's in your face that you don't matter. You're not important. These are the people who are important. They're billionaires. As celebrities, I'm going to talk with them all they want. I'm going to talk with them. I'm going to take their money, but I'm not going to talk to you as a peasant, American peasant. I'm not even bother to talk to the press. If you don't look at this and see exactly what a Hillary presidency is going to be like, you're out of your mind. It's so obvious. She doesn't care about anyone but herself and her donors.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, I mean, who are we trying to kid here? She had a private server to cover up the fact that she was running a pay to play, bribe, treasonous, scandalous operation out of the State Department where she was doing favors for her donors. She destroyed government documents. She destroyed emails. She jeopardized national security. At the very least, either she is a crazy criminal or then we have the FBI notes come out and she forgot everything. She hit her head. She doesn't remember anything. She doesn't know what classified means. She doesn't know what top secret means. She doesn't know anything. I mean, what is it? I mean, is she a huge criminal or is she a buffoon, as James Comey has said, that she's basically incompetent? She doesn't know any better.
Right. I don't think she's a buffoon. I think that, I mean, perhaps she has some mental things going on or age or whatever. That's always possible. And I would feel bad for her if that's the case. Still shouldn't be president if that's the case. But no, I don't think that. I don't think she's a buffoon. I really think there's a couple of things going on here. One, her and her husband have been flouting rules that apply to other people for decades. They always get away with it. So why would she now all of a sudden think, when she has the entire Democratic establishment behind her, and in fact she has now a lot of the Republican establishment behind her, the neocons are loving her, right? So given that, why should she think at this moment in time, when she's about to get into the presidency, that it's going to be any different, that the rule of law will apply to her, that any rules that apply to normal plebs like me and you would apply to Hillary Clinton. So she's operating under this assumption that she can do whatever she wants, basically, and get away with it. And so far, that's been on 100% true. Now, people like us in the alternative media have been calling her out, and in a lot of ways successfully doing so, which is what I've been calling recently the media wars. I think we're in this thing called the media wars right now, where in 2016, for the first time, the alternative media is driving the news cycle. And some of these things are a little outlandish with the Hillary Health thing. I mean, some of the theories are a little ridiculous. But the bigger point is this. They are getting national attention, right? So the alternative media is driving the debate. And so now the mainstream media is freaking out and they're rallying around Clinton because they're afraid that they've lost control of the narrative. So this is a really important election.
They have lost control of the narrative. I mean, right. Matt Lauer didn't ask about the obvious Clinton fraud, charity fraud. I've had Charles Ortel on. I mean, this is a charity fraud. I mean, just name the list: obstruction of justice, charity fraud, national security, total law breaking, treasonous bribe taking, selling out America. I mean, the list is a long one of legitimate. Forget the health questions, the coughing, which is bad enough. But I mean, we have this makes what Nixon did. He erased 18 minutes of tape. Right. Hey, Bob Woodward, give back your Pulitzer if you're not looking into this story. Because you are, this is too stupid to be stupid. This makes Watergate look like a schoolyard prank compared to an armed robbery with Uzis.
Right. Well, this is the other thing that people need to be aware of as well, which is it just keeps getting worse. You know, like from Clinton to Bush to Obama. I mean, and to whoever's next. Unfortunately, I'm very pessimistic in the near term for all sorts of reasons. But I think no matter who gets elected, Trump or Clinton, I think we're in deep, deep trouble. I think 2016, 2020 is going to be absolutely 4 of the worst years in American history, actually. And beyond that, potentially for a few years more. I think we're going into this period. And long term, I am optimistic. But what I was hoping for, Greg, I quit my job. I've been writing for all these years. I was really hoping to kind of to try to be one of those people to help prevent what I see coming now in the next 4 years.
Well, what do you see coming?
So what I see, first of all, I see World War III in some form coming by 2020. This is based on cycles research by the guys that wrote Fourth Turning, which I'm sure you're familiar with. But it also has to do with just looking around the world at all the hot spots, at all the anger, at all the militarization going on. Like I wrote an article about how Japan is militarizing now in a big way. And then there's China. Of course, there's that rivalry. Then there's Russia and Eastern Europe. And you see that flaming up. Turkey's going, pushing into Syria now. I mean, it's everywhere. You've got all these proxy wars going on. And in my opinion, when you have a cyclical downturn in the economy, which I'm sure will happen at some point in the next 4 years, then it's just everything's going to get worse. People are going to get more upset, more desperate. Leaders are going to get more belligerent to try to distract the public away from internal problems. So I was hoping that a lot of this could have potentially been avoided by having sort of a movement, a renaissance, like let's say more of a Ron Paul. Even Bernie Sanders would have been okay in this regard as far as like a more ethical, moral backlash to the completely unethical criminality that we suffer from today. But I don't see that as a possibility now in the next 4 years. I think we're going to have either Trump or Clinton, and I think either one of them is going to fan the flames in different ways of chaos and destruction over the next 4 years. So I think you just have to brace for it now. I mean, I don't have an optimistic scenario in the near term at this point, which is really unfortunate.
If you had to choose, I mean, to me, a pack in the court full of a bunch of Marxists, and that's what Hillary would do. And she would do all kinds of unconstitutional stuff. It would go to the Supreme Court, and then her Marxist judges that she'll put in will say, oh, yeah, no, that's constitutional. I mean, if you had to choose, if I have to choose, but then I'm not a huge Trump fan either, but what the press has tried to do to him, I've been reporting on the total unfairness as a member of former member of the mainstream media. I got to say, I'd rather have him there just for the Supreme Court alone. But what do you say? Who would you, if it comes down to Trump and Clinton, when I think it's going to, it is.
Right.
I mean, there's some third party candidates, but they're not going to win.
Right.
Look, what would you go with? Who would you go with?
I'm going to tell you exactly how I see the whole thing. So I agree with you on the media. Media has been shameless, but in fact, it's a good thing. They're discrediting themselves beyond belief by just rushing to Clinton's defense. And I mean, yes, they're reporting on things. Certain outlets are reporting on facts. But when it comes to just defending her every little other thing or criticism, it is embarrassing. I think people are picking up on that, and it's only good for people like us or alternative media who are providing more of an unbiased approach to this. I've been focused on Hillary recently because she's had a big lead, and also because I feel like I have to push back against this media that just clownishly just goes on and on about Trump all the time. Every little thing he does, while they actually don't criticize the important things that are bad about him. Now, I am not choosing between Trump and Clinton. So I will not be voting for either one of them. I respect everyone's choice to vote their own way. I cannot ethically vote for Hillary for all the reasons I discussed, but I also can't ethically vote for Trump because for me, right, everyone has their own issues that are important to them, right, and that's fine. Everyone has that right. For me, the most important issues are Wall Street bankers need to be jailed, rule of law, militarism abroad, number 2, and then civil liberties and Constitution, number 3. Now, on number 3, which is arguably the most important, Trump is bad. He's talked about internet censorship, libel laws. He's clearly has authoritarian tendencies. Hillary does as well. So I can't vote for either one of them. I will be voting third party. It's either Johnson or Stein. I have serious issues with Johnson and Stein on different issues. Johnson's bothered me with some of his statements on the TPP. So we'll see. But I'm just not going to play that game this election. I voted for Gary Johnson in 2012. Personally, on a personal level, I need to be mentally and emotionally prepared to resist whoever wins, because I know that whoever wins, there's going to be stuff that needs to be resisted. So that's just my perspective. I can't throw my emotional support to either one because I know I can't cheerlead for either one afterwards. I need to be part of the resistance to any sort of unconstitutional, authoritarian stuff that happens, whether it's Hillary or whether it's Trump. That's just my take.
Well, if Trump does what he says and he puts constitutional judges on the Supreme Court, that right there would be a step in the right direction. But
it would be, Greg, but I'm not convinced he will. Again, it's like, who does he surround himself with? These guys like Christie and Giuliani, these are not, ACLU card-carrying people. These are not people that value First Amendment. So they're generally bullies. I mean, Chris Christie I can't stand because, Chris Christie's like a thug to me. He's tough on teachers, but he won't touch Wall Street.
You're right about that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you're right about that. Here you go after teachers. But no, nobody goes to jail for Wall Street. Nobody on Wall Street goes to jail. That's unbelievable. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, the thing is, I want someone in there that goes after the powerful, that goes after the corrupt, that isn't afraid to do that. And Trump does talk a big game about that sometimes, not as much as I'd like to see. If he had more focus on Wall Street criminality, the 2008, 2009 crisis, what he would do differently the next time around, because something's going to happen. I wrote an article yesterday about these crazy structured CDs that Wall Street's creating now to rip off old people's savings. So I'm not. Trump did not convince me on two big issues that matter to me intensely. Again, one is Wall Street criminality, jailing these bank executives the next time they do something. Or at least talking about how they should have been jailed before in an aggressive manner, in a consistent manner, to really push this forward as a top issue in the country. And number 2, civil liberties, freedom of speech, what we're doing here. When he talks about libel laws and stuff, that's freaking scary to me, So So that's the thing. I have too many reservations about Trump to consider supporting him, and Hillary is a unbelievable, unmitigated 100% disaster. No chance I could ever support her. So that's where I am, Greg. Everyone, I'm not being judgmental. Everyone has their own issues that matter to them the most. I could be wrong about certain things, but that is my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
And one last thing, I just want to quickly, and I don't want to get all long into this, but I know you're a former Wall Street analyst. You're a big-time analyst. You did big work for big companies. And the Jim Rickards has been out, and he's been talking about how we're going to have a big currency devaluation, or there could be a big calamity at the end of September, beginning of October. Just your thoughts on that? Are we going to have a calamity? Are they going to try to hold this thing together? What is it?
Right.
Are you going to have a currency devaluation, a dollar collapse,
Sure,
or whatever?
sure. So a few things. Number one, I've heard this month or tomorrow or whatever, Shemitah, whatever, every single theory on why there's going to be this big currency devaluation tomorrow or this big collapse tomorrow. So I just kind of zone out on it now. I don't pay too much attention. Do I think that next month there's going to be a massive U.S. currency devaluation? No, I don't. Now on the flip side, there will be some sort of financial calamity. What I'm looking at, though, personally, is I'm looking at interest rates. So, I'm 38 years old. My entire life, basically, you've been in a downtrend on sovereign yields. So it's basically been like this 40-year bond bull market, secular bull market, my entire life. When that reverses, right, when interest rates start to rise, and it's probably not going to be because the Fed is raising rates, but when naturally, right, rates just stop going down and they start going up, that's going to be, in my opinion, a financial extinction level event. It's going to be the most important financial event in all of our lives because it's the end of a 40-year bond bull. Now, if you think about everything that's going on, all of the rigging, the student loan bubbles, the auto loans, the housing, everything, the stock buybacks, right, which have been propping up the stock market, everything is sustained by these extremely low interest rates. If we're in the beginning of a secular bear market in bonds and interest rates are going to be going up, right, like higher highs over the next 10 years, let's say, what do you think that's going to do to everything? Everything that's been rigged, everything that's been inflated, all of that will not be sustainable anymore. So that day will come. I don't know when that day will come. I would guess that it'll come in the next 4 years. And it's going to be extremely ugly when it arrives, and that's why I think probably the next thing after that will be global conflict, because all of these countries that have been sustaining themselves on these low rates, these fake economies, they're all going to come. All the chickens are going to come home to roost. So I'm looking at bonds. I'm not looking at this event or the G20 or they're going to New Bretton Woods. I think it's going to be, for this to be a real disaster, I think it's going to be an uncontrollable disaster. It's going to be sparked by rising interest rates in the bond market. That's what I think. Don't know when it'll happen. Probably almost surely in the next 4 years, but that's what I'm looking for.
Michael Krieger, always good to have you on. There's no wonder why people like to listen to you. I hope you come back. Michael Krieger, Liberty Blitzkrieg.com. You're a prolific writer. You can find your work there. Go there first, folks. Don't go anywhere else. A lot of people pick up your work. But Michael Krieger, thanks for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
Great time, Greg. Thanks a lot, and I'll be happy to come back.